Broc Glover here at Anaheim Stadium, where we're getting ready for round 4 of the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship. And I have the pleasure of having team manager Lars Lindstrom, the Team Honda HRC and the Dunlop Motorcycle Track Walk, and we're going to head out and check out what this track has in store for us. So Lars, welcome and thank you for joining us. I know it's a little later than we normally shoot it. You guys had a big managers meeting and a lot of things going on right now. So here we are at Anaheim. I mean, this is, I think, the 83rd time we're having the AMA Supercross here, more than any other venue. And you being a past rider, and that's kind of the theme this year with the team managers who used to race. So first and foremost, I know I've seen you at AMA Supercross races, and you ran how many of them in your career?
Yeah, not that many, because I was never at a super high level like someone like you was. But I did, try my hand at a few of them. Probably did about 10 total in my career. But some of my earlier injuries kind of kept me from doing more. But at the same time, I did race Anaheim. Didn't make the main event. But yeah, just being in here in the stadium, right? Like it's just cool. Like you said, 83 times. I remember being a kid sitting right there. And I think RJ won that night, so sorry.
Well, that's okay.
But it's still memories.
I got one of them. You know what? You talk about that. Yeah, I mean, when I walk in this stadium and know, I did win here one time, and it's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Like, it is amazing. So you talk about that. Lars, you grew up, I mean, your father, Gunnar Lindstrom, not only was he the team manager of Honda back in the day, but he was one of the first European Swedish men to come over here and race in motocross and show the Americans really the level of, how good the Europeans were and how good you needed to be able to race. So your father, I know, won the Daytona Supercross, I believe, in 1971. Is that true? Does that sound about right?
70 or
yeah, 71. Yeah.
Like
so
that, yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing to think that you're a second generation team manager. I mean, he obviously went on and he still had a whole career at Honda, and a fantastic thing to be able to do and have you follow in his footsteps. So we can talk a little bit about the track. The track, you can see the dirt looks fantastic. This dirt has been in the stadium since last November, and we've seen obviously a lot of rain in California, and we had a lot of rain this week.
Yep.
But this looks as good as I remember Anaheim looking a long time. How about you?
Well, I mean, it looks a whole lot better than the last 2 weekends, I can tell you that, which have been muddy. So,
yeah.
And I was here in November for Monster Jam. First Monster Jam I ever went to was a bunch of the guys on the team, and brought our kids and watched. So we saw the dirt down here, which is kept right outside the stadium, So it's been here for a while, but yeah, it got some much needed rain this week, and I think just for them to be able to put it together. And one thing that happened was that there was supposed to be an over and under when we get over to this section over here, which kind of changed the track. They made a quick change, and it's going to be no problem. But it does change a little bit, like we talked about, having more lefts and rights. And when you have an over and under, you're able to do the equal amount of lefts and rights, I believe. So that changes it a little bit, but it's still going to be nice to have a dry track to race on.
Yes, and you talk about that. Anaheim 1 was very successful for Team Honda HRC, with Jet winning his first race, and then the next couple of weeks. Honestly, if you looked at Honda on paper, you guys had a pretty dream team. You got Joe Shimoda who ran the 250 class, and then you had Jet and Hunter in the 450 class. And then you look back at the standings where they are after round 3, and you say, oh my goodness, wait a minute, Jet's in 3rd, Hunter's 13, I believe, and I think Joe's in 7th. It's like, this isn't how your season was on paper supposed to start. So how do you, as a team manager, kind of gather everybody back up and get them all back into that mode of, okay, we got many more rounds ahead of us, let's just try to get into the mode here?
Yeah, I think part of it is just realizing that we did have a good speed, that we're happy with the way that the bikes are performing on the track. Whoa, a little slick. And we just, last weekend we really just needed to work on our starts, and we did actually. We did some testing on starts in the mud to make sure that if we have this again, which we could have because there's plenty more races that are uncovered.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that we need to work on the most. So hopefully. But yeah, this first turn here.
Okay, so talk about this first turn. They're 350 feet from the time we left the gate to here. That is a long start for Anaheim.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, that's a long start in any stadium. So they really went the full length of this baseball field. And the baseball fields, do allow us to have a little bit more footprint on it. This track is over 2,100 feet. which San Diego, for instance, or football stadium, smaller soccer, college area, that's 1,900 feet. So another couple hundred feet of track length, but it probably is going to put us somewhere in the, I'm thinking as busy as this is, when a couple sets of whoops, this could possibly be a 1 minute lap time again.
Yeah, probably. And then one thing I think of when we have this type of start into, it's a left-hand turn, which is good. You know, the last couple of races have been rights, like Anaheim 1. A little bit more dangerous because of the brake pedal. It's harder to get on the brakes. This one, when you come around here, I think the one thing that we always look at is if you did have a good start, what can you do to immediately get an advantage? And sometimes you can do a section that you couldn't do with people in the way or things like that. So if you can come around there, you know, if you have enough to where you can go on either over or step on, step off, and immediately get a little bit of a gap, that's like the dream. You know, you get a whole shot, you nail that, then you're kind of got a little gap, and then it's making life real easy.
Come out of that, for, you know, if you could, what they would consider a triple, basically downside in the table, then we're on another mid-sized jump here, and this will put you into another triple going into this Dunlop bowl corner, which would be a great advantage to get some separation.
Nice segue there, Broc.
Yeah, to get some separation. So I'm thinking for certain that it can do that. Sorry about getting running here, but I don't want to. I don't want to hit the dirt. This is they've definitely put some water on it. That's why it's all that beautiful brown, loamy look to it. But press day today got pretty hard pack. Your riders did not have press here, so you guys weren't able to get a feel for the track, but right away into a bowl corner and do it a set of whoops right here. And boy, this set of whoops is a little softer. There's two sets here. The other one's a real firm set, and we'll see how, I think we're gonna probably get one of the whoops getting the rutted up, and this one might get pretty, this might be the rutted up one, and the one on the other side over there might just be a nice firm, difficult section. But
one thing that the people might not be able to notice too, for just watching on video, is that these are, I would have to consider easy whoops. You know, they're when they're laid down a little bit more like this, it's just easier for them to skim them. And these ones, when they're nice and fresh like this, they will go unbelievably fast. Like in the first couple laps in practice, I guarantee you that the guys won't, you know, they won't even really have to lift off these things.
Just
until they start getting beat up and rutted, like you said.
So heading into this corner right here, again, they are, early on, they might be easier for the riders to navigate, but at that point, coming into another bowl corner. So right off the bat, we have a sharp start, you know, nice wide, you know, separation's good, but we have two back-to-back 180s here with a set of whoops.
Nice bowl berms too.
Yeah, it is.
Good spots for passes for sure.
This, without that over-under bridge we talked about, it's kind of interesting because there's 3 lanes of track on this side of the track that they do back-to-back to back. And this corner here is the one in the right field corner. At Anaheim 1 is always the shady corner. It's always soft, it always ruts. But today in press day, I noticed just with a month's time difference that the sun is much higher, and this track, this corner had a lot of sun on it. So we might not get nearly the normal ruts that we normally see in that right field, that foul pole corner that where the tunnel comes out.
That turn is also, the first jump out of that turn is really close. So for them to be able to come out of there and go 3 out of that is probably going to be tough. So you probably see a lot of, like, they go 2 and then kind of race it, maybe even go 3 onto this table.
So, okay, press day. A couple of people talking a little bit. There were a couple guys telling me that they think that they can get 3 out of this corner where we're standing. So 2 smalls and a large. So 3-footer, 3-footer, and maybe almost 5-footer. That they downside this and then hit this smaller 3-footer, and there's a table right afterwards. Well, somebody I was talking to thought he could catch this jump, not only clear this table, but actually land. This is back-to-back tabletops. And they thought they could get up onto the second table from this 3-footer.
Should we make a bet?
I'll tell you who he is, and we can go throw some money down. But if there was any rider that had the talent to do it, I think one of your riders might be one of those guys, and that's a long ways.
That is,
I actually paced it off, Lars. It's not as far as on paper. It's only like 60 and low 60-foot range. But the jump is so low in between. That's a small jump.
Looking at it from this view, from that view, I was thinking no way. But from this view, if they can downside that, that's a good run, and you can compress the suspension and get the pop. I think they can, because that's a low tabletop, and it's it wouldn't be
I actually think there's at least a 50-50 odds that they can do it.
Yeah.
You talk about that backside of that jump right there. You realize that when you have a 5-footer, that gives you another couple of feet. When you can downside it just right, you got another couple of feet, and you give a 450 a few feet, that thing picks up a lot of momentum.
And then the other thing is too, you know, like what some people don't really realize probably, but you know, someone like you would be natural, is that you actually don't want to downside the jump perfect and drive into the next one. You'll want to over jump it just a tad, land rear wheel, and then compress the fourth, and then you'll get an extra couple of feet of air, huh?
Absolutely. You got to use the suspension for your benefit.
Yeah, land off this and then bounce right off into the next one.
So again, looking back at it, it doesn't seem so terribly far. First, when I heard that, and that's why I walked over and I did my little pacing of it, and I go, yeah, it's right around 20 full paces. And being a golfer and all that, I like to take those are like 1 yard paces. So that puts it at 60 feet. And 60 feet for these guys is a no-brainer in second gear. I mean, it really is. So interesting flow right here in front of the podium. These are just rollers. I mean, just, you know, you would say the rollers, but it's kind of funny. Normally, I would think that they would put the rollers a little higher on the inside to try to even it out between outside and inside. But my guess is the Dirtworks crew is thinking that they're going to have so much speed coming off of that, it's not going to be very easy to get to the inside. So
I kind of agree. And then also coming into this next section, it's whoops. You know, you want for the most part, you're going to want a decent run. So being outside and getting that extra couple of feet of run is going to benefit here.
Now this here. Yeah. And again, we apologize for the lighting being a little bit low. There has been a lot of things going on today at this, today, like you mentioned, the steering committee meetings went really long for you. I knew I wanted you as my co-host, and you got tied up. Then they were filming a little intro with one of the top riders that you'll see probably in opening ceremony. So they were doing that. But the good news is the track crew looked like they were going to dinner. We don't have this, you know, sometimes we run into, like, they give whatever window I have to do this. It's not always the easiest. You know, sometimes the pyrotechnics people are practicing their, you know, pre-show. I have other times the track crews out here with water hoses, just kind of slipping in wherever I can. But these whoops now, these don't look quite as easy to me. They look steeper, and like the pockets are a little tighter. Yeah, and there's not much of a starter whoop either, if you notice. Huh? Like and this one is kind of interesting. The very last one is kind of a 60%. Yeah, so this one they ran out of dirt, and so this is obviously a deterrent for riders going on the inside. If you come out here, they're hoping to give you an advantage, because this was funny actually for me watching in press day. They were turning here and coming down this way, but other riders, they're only using half the track. In other words, some of the riders and a lot of the other fairly knowledgeable people were trying to figure out like where the track went from there. They weren't sure if it came out of here and the whoops went this way or that way. They're like, no. Yeah, so is it kind of odd that it crosses the first corner, heads over here, and I'm sure you're looking at the track map, you were able to figure it out. But yeah, it cuts kind of uniquely over to this side to a right-hander. Yeah, some of these tracks can actually be a bit of a, you know, a little bit of a, a mystery to figure out for when you first look at the track map, how the start goes and then reversing onto, so it can be a little bit tricky. Confusing. Well, last week it was that way. I mean, Larry Brooks was kind enough to join me on the track walk, and I didn't really realize, I mean, Ken Roxon, his team didn't have any riders out there. He was working on the bike in the pits earlier in the day, and he really didn't get a chance to watch press day. So when we went down to the first corner, the maps don't do them justice when you're standing in the line, and then sometimes, you know, he was not even sure, like, wait, does it turn sharper? Does it go around to the outside here? So it is, and you realize it's the same thing. So coming out of that corner, flat out, backwards down the starting line, and this is just a constant corner. Yeah, this is kind of cool actually. It's almost like a little road race action where not too much of a turn where you're probably going to high side, but at the same time a little throttle control, and you're going to be going pretty quickly into this next turn. Right, we're coming flat out counter start and counter direction there. Heading into the left field, what would be the foul pole off in the distance they're able, if you can shoot up there. But so this is a common corner. Last time the Anaheim won, they had a big 180 here back in front. We've seen all sorts of crazy action going on here, but Anaheim too. I mean, you think back at the history of this venue. I mean, it's been 50 years since the first American motocross finals was thrown here right on this land in 75, you know, and it was not even considered an AMA Supercross at that point. It wasn't until the next year where another Honda rider won, a guy named Marty Smith, one of my personal heroes, but came out here and won on Honda in 76. So that was the first AMA Supercross ever here at this venue. But Anaheim has had Anaheim 2s. They've had a few years. They had 3 races, as we all know. But the very first Anaheim 2 was in 1999. And it was won by another guy on a red bike. Do you remember back that far? Do you remember who that might have been?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say it was Ezra Lusk.
Yeah, it was. That was during the Jeremy McGrath era, but Ezra got the best of him that night. And ironically enough, the very first time they had an Anaheim 1 and 2, Ezra won Anaheim 1. So he was like, oh yeah, I won both of them. But that didn't happen that often. It only happened a few times that people have won both. And the one unique part that I always talk about, it just amazes me, is that we've never had a first-time winner at Anaheim. It's been 40-something main events ran in the 250 and the 450, and not one time has it been a rider who won his very first Supercross in either of those classes at an Anaheim 2. Always somebody that's lit the candles before has done it. So maybe we'll have a first-time winner. So coming out of that corner right here, left corner, we saw in press day, most everybody was doubling this and using the larger jump, which you don't always see. But there were a lot of the guys were launching off of this right here, and then tripling it that, which I look at it from here, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a long way.
Right. But, and I don't think I saw anybody try to triple onto this one, huh?
No, I know it is. If you look back, Abel, it's like you think that smaller one, somebody would come out of that bowl corner and really try to get over this big one, but they really weren't.
The angle of the takeoff can be just like, you know, it can just an inch or two and makes it too difficult.
Yeah, that's the second one we've seen the jump seem closer to the corner, not giving the guys as much room. So coming off of that, the big jump here, instead of trying to avoid the big one, they're actually using it to launch, tripling onto this. And then I saw a little mishap or two in this section. A couple of guys not quite sure if they were going to try on the 250s to get all the way over. But from here, so when you're coming over here, tripling here, that's your pocket, and this is your takeoff on a fairly small, clearing the table, so they're calling it a 1 and 2, and then clearing the further jump outside. So it's really a quad by nowadays standards. So there's 2, there's 3, and they were clearing this. But in a good track design, like I feel like this is a good obstacle, you have the option, if you don't quad over that one with the Dunlop Tough Blocks, you can set it down here and then triple into the corner. Right. So you have either way. If you quad it and you land there, then you double into the bowl corner, or you can do whatever the.
And that's a tough one too, because if you quad over, you carry all that momentum here.
Yep.
But once you hit this one, you're going from a 4 or 5 footer down to a 2. So there's a lot of time to be lost by hitting that big jump, rather than checking up here and then gaining it by going 3 into the turn and maybe landing with a little bit more momentum into the turn. So it's kind of like that go slower to go faster kind of mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you use the face of this big steep one to almost slow you, like just to take the momentum and stop you so you don't over jump. But yeah, this is a fairly small one coming into this Falcon Tires bowl corner. So another good 180, real clean, not a bad section, a little more run. This is, I don't call it a no-brainer, but this is kind of a no-brainer, a little seat bounce out of the corner and getting ready for a triple or into the, just a routine triple across from the finish line there. But this is just one of the most, I guess, more basic sections in my mind. If you probably think the same, but I'm gonna go around this big triple because they look like they watered the place there.
Yeah, that might be a good way to taste the dirt.
Gotcha here. So, kind of again, just a simple, standard 60, 65 foot triple.
Big landing though, huh?
Yeah, it is a good size leg. It always seems so. When I do these, I always think these triples seem so far, you know, and I look back, oh, wow, that seems a long ways. These guys just,
First
it's
lap.
nothing. First lap in practice.
But I have to say, they have made the triples so predictable nowadays that even in Atlanta a couple years ago when they had that really big one, the guys were scared. You know, they were like scared and they were almost mad. Like, why is this jump so big?
I'm glad you said it, not me.
You know,
but
like, hey, you gotta.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So we had that, and Hunter was the one that ended up, you know, taking the big digger on that thing.
Yeah,
so.
that is true. I remember Atlanta Motor Speedway there. That was a big crash. That was a huge jump, almost kind of ridiculous. One thing about doing it by yourself, but one thing when you're doing it in a pack of riders.
Right.
You know,
true.
one by yourself, okay, it's not that hard, but when you're doing it in a pack, you know.
But the best riders in the world will still be willing to follow someone rather than have to do it on their own. You know, like when there's a big jump.
Yeah, lead follow.
Exactly.
No problem. So finish line jump there, obviously. That's what you want right there. I was just gonna say we should get out of here. When I see the pyrotechnic guys, you know, I've been down here enough now after many of these years to see these guys practicing and testing their equipment. And yeah, you'll singe some hair on the back of your neck for sure, or your arms.
We get that Bubba neck burn, but you know we didn't deserve it.
Yep. Have you ever got in that tower? You're up in the team manager's tower. Yeah. Have you ever had like an eyebrow, or you smell your arm? Oh my gosh, I think I burned some hair.
No, but I haven't. But I've been terrified of smelling the propane and then like feeling like that thing is going to explode and it's all going down. But those guys are professional; they know what they're doing.
We hope so. We hope so. I'm sure they are. So, right off the finish line, right here, another left-hand corner, and then into another really. We went from triple to finish line double to another pretty good size. Looks like a big fly racing jump here.
Yeah, it's just a double, but
it's just a big double, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
So we talked about this. You worked with Chase Sexton a lot. In this corner here, you're coming out of a left-hand corner. You're going down the basically first baseline, and almost everybody was coming out of this left-hand corner, and they were kind of scrubbing it this way.
Yeah.
Chase would come into the left.
Yeah.
And I've seen him do that many times. Have you ever noticed that he prefers to scrub to the left side?
I don't know if I've noticed that he does, but it makes sense that he would because of him being a left-handed guy.
Exactly.
But also, I will say that if I'm riding and I'm coming in here and I'm sweeping wide and I'm kind of apexing and flat off and I'm going off the flat corner off of this, I'm gonna go this direction.
Yeah, that's what my brain does because I'm very right-handed, but Chase is left-handed.
But if you go outside and you hit that berm and you come across the track this way, I'm gonna go this way to kind of stay low. Not that I'm do the the best Bubba scrub, but I mean,
not me. If I come across that jump and I'm doing this thing, I got some pucker factor. Maybe when I was younger, I would have done it, but this is So yes, I noticed that with Chase, and I always, I know you've worked with him, and obviously he was on your team for years, so very good. So everything this week as a team manager, did you guys use most of your year's parts budget in the first 2 rounds or 3 rounds with all that mud? I mean, I talked to people that honestly, I asked them, just about even the wheels and the tires, the Dunlop tires. These guys, they had to tear every bit of their hubs and every bearing and everything. It's been a lot of wear and tear, and it's been a lot of work on you guys. I mean, tell us how much more work has it been for the Team Honda HRC program to redo their bikes from those first few races that were so muddy?
A lot more for sure. Luckily, they've been close enough to our race shop where being able to switch out those parts and really make sure that the bike is 100% top to bottom rebuilt has been a little bit easier. But yeah, like you said, all those things that you wouldn't have to worry about. The wheels can usually go pretty much all season because you're rotating 3 sets. You don't have to change bearings and those things because you can do that at the end of the season. But now you got to do it right after that because it just gets in everywhere. Like especially San Francisco with that amount of water. Last weekend not as much, but San Fran was just so much water and so much rain that gets everywhere. All the electrical components that we have that are, a lot of them are custom or factory, and they're expensive. They take a lot of time to prepare. All those things, now you got to do that all again. It's just so much time and that kind of prep stuff that's what really eats you up. We're always going to put on new plastic and bushings and break, all the parts to make all those things function properly and everything. Production parts, not as bad. The works parts that take 3-4 months to come from Japan. And the other parts, like I said, that we prep and we have to make customized, things to, those things are what eat you up. You just have to do it all over again, and it definitely makes it a very difficult week.
Yeah, it wears on, no question about it. So another interesting stat for this year is we wind up the Dunlop Motorcycle Tires Track Walk. We're in the final corner right here, as we said, going down the first base line. A single jump here that crosses the starting line area, and it's going to be interesting to see what these guys do if they go all the way for the single and then into a table. And it's a little different setup than what you talked about on the first lap, what you would try to do.
Yeah, especially because, if you go inside here, you can kind of roll over this thing and try to stay low, get drive, and then go, either over and 3 out, or on, off, and 2 into the turn, or like you said, go outside, double in, and then, you're going to go table to single. That might take some time. So
it could very well.
This is the kind of thing that we would do on our ghosting.
Yeah.
Like there's some options like this, and the other thing is too, when the riders they go out and they get beat by 0.8 of a second or something pretty large, and that's where the ghosting thing really comes into play, because they could be really.
So you're talking about the Dartfish, the software that actually overlays the fastest guy in you, and you can see like, oh my gosh, I was right there half a lap, and then all of a sudden he's got a quarter of a second or half a second. It's like, okay, that line was bad. So you guys, so there's nothing that you can't hide anymore out here. Everything on the electronics on your bike and all this Dartfish, it's just incredible. The technology has gone to the level that it's amazing that no wonder so many people are flocking to this sport and just love Supercross right now. And we keep growing and growing.
Yeah, because your confidence level could have been knocked down a couple notches. Like, I can't believe that I felt like I put down a lap that was a heater, and then Eli Tomac went half a second faster. But then you see where he did that, and you're like, that's all he did? He just went like inside there or outside here. He didn't do a huge line. In fact, he maybe did a smaller line just more efficiently. And then you're like, okay, we're good. And the confidence back up.
Yeah,
so
and that's what it, like you said, what it takes. And this, we have so much parity right now in the sport. We've had in the 250 and the 450 class, we've had a different top fastest qualifier at each of the 3 rounds. In the heat races, we've had no rider win a heat race twice. So we've had 6 different heat race winners. And main events, we've obviously had 3 different winners in the 250 and 3 different in the 450. So it's a very interesting, again, the parities, there's so many top riders. Of course, the mud played a factor in that, but it's going to be fun to see if, like we said earlier, a new winner has never won a main is going to end up back up here on the podium. So that would be a first for Anaheim too, and the way it goes. So Lars, thank you so much for joining us on this track walk and sharing some of your knowledge. I know there's a lot more up there, and again, we'll see you next week. And when we start the East Coast, and this is the one thing I would be remiss not to mention, this is a triple crown. So that was important that we mentioned this is a triple crown. So this is a whole other format, and also the first of 5 Supercross futures. So we're going to see the future of the sport, and there's many guys that are lining up on the main events in that 250 class right now. Just a year or 2 ago, we're in the Supercross futures. So,
true.
So tune in next week from Detroit when we head back east for round 1 of the East Coast in the 250 class, and that would be round 5, I think, of the 450 class. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If my math's right. All right. Thanks for watching.